Well, good evening, lunatics. It is November 14th. Lord have mercy. Like, dude, I swear 2025 started like last week, and here it is November. They say that's a sign of getting old, but it's November 14th, and we're sitting down with Mike Gray, the trucker CEO. Is that it? I'm sorry. I,
Mm-hmm.
um, so we made friends last week on a TikTok live with Bobby Loads. And so we had a conversation, but he put up a TikTok this past week. I'm actually going to play it for you because it really summed up what it is. He gave a voice to something that was in my head and something that I immediately texted to Barb. And I said, we have to put this in the program. Like, this has got to be day one, level one stuff when it comes to thinking about how you're going to run your business. So let's play this and we'll come back and talk to it.
Alrighty, buckle up because I'm going to say something that might be a little bit controversial to some of you guys, and maybe some of y'all might not want to hear it. But if you're new to the trucking industry or looking at starting a successful business in the industry, becoming an owner operator, or you're a seasoned vet, hopefully this might be relevant to both of you guys because I don't really hear anybody else saying what I'm about to say. So there are two different types of trucking, and it doesn't matter what mode you're in. You could be box truck, sprinter van, dry van, flatbed, hot shot, doesn't matter. Within all of those modes, there's two different buckets here. And one is trucking as a commodity, and two is trucking as a service that we provide for our customers. So trucking as a commodity, this is where unfortunately a lot of people live. And this is the world where you have the DAT baseline rate and you're getting something above and beyond, or below it, right? Based on market spikes. This isn't really necessarily where you want to live. And there's a whole other world where this is pretty irrelevant in trucking. And the DAT market rate means absolutely nothing to a lot of people. And I'm serious. There's a really good portion of the trucking industry that nobody cares about the DAT rate. It doesn't matter. So if you're living in this world, you've essentially set yourself apart as a commodity, and people are buying that commodity that, getting goods moved from point A to point B for the lowest price possible. You say, well, I pick up and deliver on time. Well, that's still basically a commodity. Like that's table stakes, So let's get over here to the service industry, and, top high level here, with being a service provider, everything you do is about building trust and building trust with your customers. And that customer could be a shipper or it could be a broker, but every move you make is either building trust or losing trust. And once you build enough trust with those people, you're going to be able to demand whatever rate you want. For the most part, within reason. I mean, it can't be like $1 billion or something silly like that. But $5-10 a mile for like something that's not specialized is not, it's not unheard of. And that happens today. There are brokers that are paying that, and that stuff does not hit the load board at all. And how you get out of this commodity type of trucking and into this service provider type of trucking is something that I'm going to share with you guys over the series of the next couple videos. So stay tuned.
Dude. So I want to give some context here before we get into your history, okay? Because I always want everybody to learn who we're talking to, okay? But I got to hit this first. When I got with Larry, if you go back to episode 1 of what was an American Truck Driver podcast,
okay,
it was me telling the story of how I got to where I was at, the choices that I made. I was trying to leave crumbs behind in case somebody wanted to come and do it, and they didn't have to just figure out everything the way I did. But what I was doing and what Larry and I continue to do, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we're like, okay, we're going to maximize every opportunity in general freight. We weren't trying to do anything specialized. And our thought process was, well, obviously we're paying the driver and all this stuff. We don't really have the margin to take the risk on the service related freight. So what we're going to do is just teach people how to be really, really exceptionally good at what we would now call the commodity hauling. We'll get their costs down, we'll get their revenue up, and they'll make a better living than they would have. And then when they graduate the program and they've got their own truck, well, then they can go after that specialized stuff and they can grow themselves up. So when Phil comes along, our platform coordinator, who is that's what he does, right? He is a heavy haul, 7-axle service provider operating at a very, very high level. And we kind of kept him at arm's length. It was almost it was almost like, now don't spoil the bunch, Phil, but we recognized what value he had. And we figured out how, we can do the masterclass program, the 18 months, and we can teach them this service level of going after, like you said, the $10 a mile freight. And yesterday, an email pops up, because usually what happens is our drivers that are self-dispatched, they'll just send me a text that says, hey, I booked this load, and here's the basic parameters. I'm like, great. Well, yesterday, an $18,000, like 1,800 mile load shows up in the inbox. Hey, Greg, here's your freight bill. Now, what was funny about it is they forgot to attach the freight bill. So I had no idea how much it paid. I just saw it was, from here to here. And it was an agent that we do a lot of heavy haul stuff with. I had no idea it was $18,000 and $10 a mile, right? Come to find out, they didn't even ask him if he wanted it. They just sent it to him. So normally he would be like, hey, I booked this load for such and such. And I, put it in my spreadsheet. So it shows up with no money. And they're like, oh, sorry, forgot to attach it. That's the epitome of that service level, because Greg has now worked himself into a position where he don't even ask for the $10 a mile. He's not chasing it. They just send it to him, and I guess, if he wasn't available, he'd just call him out and say, hey man, I can't do this that day. So it is possible to do that. And so it's kind of opened up a new world and a new way of thinking for me, because when we started this, it was, to use a football analogy, it was blocking and tackling, right? Okay, just do your paperwork, okay? Document everything.
Got to figure out the simple stuff.
Do a great job. Build relationships with agents where you can get better than market freight. But it still kind of had that rat in a wheel, just run as hard as you can. And you'll come out on top, because you're going to make great revenue and you're going to learn how to manage your expenses and you're going to do the business well. And then, Phil basically took over the company but has turned it into this amazing opportunity where, we've probably got, I'd have to look through my platform division here. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 people now that are both in our program and our BCOs, that we're bringing them up to that level and watching them grow from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. So it's been fascinating to watch them not have to work like animals. It's hard work still, strapping and chaining and tarping and that kind of stuff. But they're not running 3,000 and 4,000 miles a week anymore, So what you did here was absolutely ignite the fire in me that I have been trying to find the words to say with this video. So take a few minutes, as long as you want. We don't have a time limit. And just give us kind of your background, who you are, where you came from, how you got here, and what it is you're trying to do in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it. Appreciate the intro. And I think just overall, I think the industry is starving for providers, trucking providers that know how to give good service. And I think that goes beyond, there's the heavy haul specialized stuff, but I think you can do this even, in a regular mode, right? flatbed, dry van, right? There's niches in there, and there's people who appreciate really good service. It doesn't matter, you could be hauling a dry van or even a Sprinter van, and somebody really there is freight out there that people need to get moved. They need the freight more than they need their money, is the way that I like to
Mm-hmm.
to phrase that. And and there's a lot of people out there. And so just get a little bit of background. So at 19 years old, I was born and raised in a trucking family. My dad's a trucker, owner, operator. Ended up, having a few more trucks. And 19 years old, got my CDL, ran for a while for him, and then ended up taking over the company and really growing it till I was about 37 years old or something like that. So really what I had done most of my life. Ended up, through a series of a bunch of unfortunate things, having to step away from that company, just for more family reasons than anything else. But ended up meeting Dan Lewis, who was the CEO of Convoy, pretty early on, before Convoy was a thing. And I don't know, I feel like less and less people are familiar with Convoy every day, but
Yeah.
pretty big startup there, and one of the first to do that. I was on the founding team of Convoy and was there for 4 or 5 years, and then went over to Motive. A lot of people don't know, but Motive ELD actually built a pretty good sized brokerage, and they had operating in the background. Was there, and then it ended up just becoming an agent for SPI Logistics, and that's how I make my bread and butter now. And also recently in 2023, I took like a year and a half and was going to spin up a trucking company, and got my butt in a truck for about a year and a half, and ended up finding enough good freight that I ended up not being able to stay in that truck anymore, and added that to my brokerage as an agent. So then I really operate that agency kind of more like a trucking company.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just if it wasn't for trucking, I would have to go find a job at McDonald's or something, because I don't know how to do anything else, man. It's like, we joke in this industry, once you're in it, you can't get out. They don't let you leave.
I've quit at least 10 times,
Yep. Screw this industry. So yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff, and building my dad. I feel like where I learned a lot of the things that I just talked about was really in my dad's building that trucking company up. I think we had 4 or 5 trucks when I first started, and that was in the early 2000s. And we had 25 when I left, and a bunch of pretty specialized piece of equipment, and I didn't even know what a load board was. Till probably 2010, it didn't, like, I'd kind of heard about it, but we didn't have a load board account, why? Those just seemed silly. So, okay. And my dad he taught me to, you go get the work directly from the customers. And I think we worked with like 3 brokers. But it was kind of a big deal for us to work for a broker. And we did stuff for Landstar. As a matter of fact, that was one of them. They had some specialized stuff that came in, like to the Port of Seattle, Port of Tacoma. That's where we were located, up there in the Pacific Northwest.
I started in 97.
Okay. I was 98. So I'm 1 year behind you.
Absolutely clueless about everything. Not just trucking, life, economics.
Same.
and it took about 10 years for me to start being curious, which coincided with the birth of my first kid, which that changes your DNA a little bit. Oh my gosh, there's a human I'm responsible for.
Right.
But when I started being curious and I started to ask questions, I noticed that I stopped making certain declarations. The more I learned about how the economy worked, about how just basic economics works, and then having good experienced, successful people teach me about the business, I was able to dispel a bunch of the nonsense that I
Right.
one time believed. And I think this, you know who Kevin Rutherford is?
Yeah, I'm friends with Kevin Rutherford.
Okay,
So
so a
I've
couple
known
of
him for about
years
10
ago,
years.
Kevin absolutely set the internet on fire by saying that trucking was a commodity, right? And he offended and hurt a lot of feelings because, of course, the way he delivered it, it's Kevin, but the way he delivered it, I think maybe he was trying to say what you said, but the way it was received is, oh, well, you're telling me I don't have any value as a driver, and you're telling me that that I'm no good. I'm just a commodity and can be replaced. Well, that for a lot of people, that is true, and the truth kind of hurts sometimes. But that was the first time that I had heard it described that way. And then what was the thing that Craig Fuller tried to do with
I was thinking the exact same thing.
the futures, the trucking
That's what
futures?
started my thinking along this line when he was doing the futures, and I'd got a chance to sit down and talk to Craig when he was just spinning up freight waves, and
Yeah.
he explained to me the whole freight futures thing, and I'm like, man, this seems nuts. So, but
I
I get it. He's a
I
smart guy.
kind of get what he was thinking, but I, of course I had to actually get down and okay, well, what's a future?
Mhm, mhm.
Why
Yeah,
are there soybean futures? Why are there grain futures? Why are there oil futures? Why are these things there? Well, it's there to take care of the rate when there's a supply and demand problem. Best I can tell that, I mean, it's painful, but we pretty much deal with the supply and demand problem as it comes,
mhm,
and
mhm.
some people are truly victims of that, because if you're not
Agreed.
prepared when it shifts, and at one point I had gone back through our episodes to and looked for, and it was somewhere in 2021, late 21, we were saying, hey guys, this is not going to last. This is not sustainable. You're not going to walk out your front door and just trip over $5 a mile loads. I mean, it's fun right now. We're having a ball where we can go out and do $10,000 a week without breaking a sweat. I had a team running. When they weren't running a team, they were just running super solo. That log book and a
From
half, and
solo.
they were doing 20 grand a week. And they weren't a very good team. Um, and it was awesome. But we're saying, guys, that this is not sustainable. But there was this attitude in the market. We're finally getting what we deserve. We're finally getting what we're worth. And I knew that wasn't true. When it started in 2017 is when that started. Everybody wants to blame or give credit to the pandemic, but y'all, that rocket was lit in 2017.
Yeah.
It was just fed some nitromethane in 2020, but it was already burning. It was already on the way up, and nothing really was going to stop it. Well, until so, and I think this because it's an objective choice. We have from day one that I got with Larry have talked so much about your identity. Your identity as a business owner versus your identity as an employee. What you believe about yourself is what is going to drive your decision making. It's going to drive the direction that you take your business. And if you're doing it from the standpoint of the employee, you are going to be miserable and you're going to fail. But if you'll do it from the position of a business owner, business owners make different decisions for different reasons.
Yeah.
Well, here we have an opportunity to understand that the commodities exist, and it's a great thing for really big trucking companies to do, right? They're a tiny part of the market. Well, they're 8-9% maybe.
Super small.
Super small.
They're
But
like the railroad, kinda.
they're really exceptionally good at filling some of those boring niches. I mean, hell, I could 10x my fleet and never be able to sign a contract that says I'm going to haul 100,000 loads of toilet paper for Georgia Pacific. Not going to happen. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the ability. It's not something that I can go say I do. But buddy Schneider can write that contract tomorrow and provide great service to them. I was talking with a guy the other day, and there was a customer wanting to drop some flatbeds at a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, we want 3 dedicated flatbeds that sit on our lot, and then we'll take them out to the customer, and then you'll bring them back. And we kind of rolled over that a few times, and I'm like, it's really hard to do power only platform freight because number one, who's driving around bobtail with all of the equipment necessary, the securement equipment necessary, and the experience and skill necessary?
Stack of flatbeds a little scary. I've done it before.
Yeah. And I mean, we did it at Anderson, like New Holland.
Especially you going three tall on a spread axle. It's back to let's a little scary.
New Holland would preload trailers, and we would go in. But again, you're talking about a very large company that has the extra assets that it's not going to damage their margin to leave 4 or 5 pieces of equipment sitting somewhere.
Right.
And then you put in, when we want you to bring the trailer back. Okay, well now you got to pay somebody empty. It's like you should just find 3 or 4 or 5 really good trucks to service this freight. And I said, that would be a great thing for JB Hunt. JB Hunt has the flexibility to go do something like that. Now, I don't want to call JB Hunt and say, hey, man, I found a great customer for you. Right. But that's not something that I'm going to be able to do and do well and provide the customer with an amazing experience, because I'm probably going to fail at that, because there's never going to be a power only truck available where I need there to be a power only truck, if they even exist.
Yeah.
It's looking at something and going, man, I don't think we got the tools to pull that off, But there's so many people right now, and we see them on social media, right? And they've identified a boogeyman, and it's brokers or it's other carriers or it's whoever. And to the point, there was some guy, we're going to make brokering illegal, and he sells trucks, used trucks. I said, how about we make used trucks illegal? Like, why should somebody profit off the sale of a used truck? We should have the government take possession of all of the used trucks and hand them out to carriers, because think about how important used trucks are to the overall market and people getting their food and their clothing and stuff. Nobody should be able to profit off of that. And of course, shockingly, I never got a response.
Can't imagine why.
But it's that commodity thinking, and I want to do as little as possible and make as much as possible. Well, saying that in itself, there's nothing really wrong with that. I'd like to drive 1,000 miles a week and make $5,000 in revenue. That would be awesome. But it's not realistic for everyone. So, you can, though, you watching this show right now, you can learn how to do something more. You can learn how to do something better. You can outfit your equipment in a different way. You can buy specialized equipment that's going to make you stand out among that commodity crowd. But it's a choice and an investment, and it's not without risk. You could, like a Landstar, for example, they have this thing, I think it's called cold chain. I don't really know what it is. I've heard about it, but it involves reefers. And it's very lucrative. There's not a chance I'm going to go buy a reefer just to do that. You know, now maybe some, I'm sure, other people have, I have friends that have bought a reefer, but before that they had already worked themselves and kind of built the relationship, and they were already known in that world. So buying a reefer was not an unreasonable expenditure for them. It would be insane for me to do that. I'm going to go buy a reefer and go do cold chain. I don't even know what it pays. I don't know where it goes. I don't know enough about it. I can hear, oh man, it's really great. Okay, well, how great is it? So you just got to be thoughtful about your decision making. So where do we go from here? Well, I guess talk about it from your side because you're
Sure.
much more on the agent broker side.
Yeah.
Because let me say this: I've got some friends that I've made who are brokers on TikTok and social media, and I think they deal a lot of the same problem that we do on this side. There's commodity brokers and there's
Yeah.
service brokers.
I did a video about that, about the commodity broker and the service broker and what the difference is. And and I was born and raised. I'm an agent now. I was born and raised in trucking, and I've been there, held the steering wheel plenty of times. So I think I get it, at least a little bit, maybe not to the extent a lot of people do, but um, really at the end of the day, this is a relationship business. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, so I call my channel the Trucker CEO. And, I kind of thought about what I wanted to do. And I'd been thinking about, starting something on social media for a couple of years. And I just never got around to it because I'm not a big social media kind of guy, to be honest with you. But, I just saw so much bad information out there. And, I think that if there was a little bit more good information, maybe it could overtake some of the bad information. Um, and I didn't really see anybody talking about relationships. And, so I was thinking, as the CEO of any company, like, your first job as the CEO is to go land your first 10 customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Working in this freight tech world that I've lived in and stepped out of, that the CEO is intimately involved, even if it's a CEO of a multi-million dollar company. You have to really be obsessed about your sales, and sales comes from relationships. And I think you can find relationships on load boards, but you're not going to find them necessarily on the first load that you do it, or within the Landstar network. I'm not as familiar with that. I have a pretty good idea about how the Landstar network works, and, agents, and they can find loads within the Landstar system. Um, but, just, and you talked about, allowing yourself time, right? And I think you got to be able to reduce some chaos in your business to be able to take the time to really build those relationships. And I know it's hard. It's really hard to get going off the load boards, but I would say, like, just as an initial goal for somebody who's, maybe this is starting to resonate with, you want to get yourself saved, your phone number saved in the cell phone of
Mm-hmm.
5 to 10 either shippers or brokers, or good brokers, right?
Yeah.
And you want to be the person that shipper or broker is texting, on a Friday night at 8 p.m., because they got an emergency that's going to
Yep.
happen. And you name the price when that happens, because that freight does exist. And a lot of times that's not hitting the load board. And I got a friend of mine, that lives in Gillette, Wyoming, and I think he has 4 trucks. And great guy. And you could argue, where's the least amount of freight in the country? What area has the least
Mm-hmm.
amount of freight? And I'll bet you Gillette, Wyoming would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
pretty close to the top.
Yeah.
This guy is busy as hell, like, super busy. All of his trucks. And I was talking to him a few weeks ago, and he had somebody that got all of his trucks and was paying him $3,000 a day, flat rate for his trucks to do some local stuff. And you get that because of a relationship, right? That's the kind of work that you get. And and if you can get it in Gillette, Wyoming, which is middle of flipping nowhere, you're not
Yeah.
even, the closest metro area is Denver, which we
Mm-hmm.
all know. If you ever been to Denver with a truck,
Yeah.
you but that those people, he was able to build trust with, and I think it was brokered freight as well, that he was
Mm-hmm.
doing that $3,000 for. Um, and flatbed, you know, nothing oversized, nothing specialized. And that was like a few weeks ago. So, you know, and that's the point of building relationships. And that's one thing that I really want to emphasize on my TikTok channel, and is just the importance of doing that and coming through and just providing that service level for whoever you're working for. You know, if you're going to do something, do it right, even if the load sucks, because you never know what that's going to lead to.
Something I was thinking about when you said that. Okay. Hey, company drivers, come here a minute. Let's say you're a company driver and you thought maybe I should give being an owner operator a shot. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and practice this service provider mindset and this relationship about building mindset now while you're a company driver.
That's a good idea.
And if you'll do that and you'll do some networking, you might run into a small carrier that needs someone like you that will even build that up even more. And even further, you might find a small carrier that is in the service business that needs a superstar to come and provide that level. And maybe they'll even throw you a little bone helping you get your first truck, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's what we're not going to do, okay? Because I've had a couple of horrifying conversations over the last couple of weeks, and one of which was, hey, man, come drive for me, specialized guy, right? Can do all the big stuff. Hey, man, come for me, and when we're done, I'll give you the truck. Well, that's great until the truck gets repossessed, right? That's great until the hood gets tore off of it. That's great until somebody dies and has a heart attack. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you
seems like a crazy deal.
You can't pour all of your future plans in something that's not written down. I took a call today. This was precious. Submitted an application for mentoring, but the truck information was blank. And so, and of course, stupid me, I didn't look at my calendar and I missed the interview. Here I am making fun of people about time zones. And the guy calls me and he was like, hey man, I thought we were supposed to have a meeting. And I'm like, oh, what a moron. But anyway, he said, hey, I said, what kind of truck are you? Well, we don't have a truck. We're getting a truck in January. Oh, okay. So you're going to drive it? No, I'm not going to drive it. I'm getting it with my partner. I said, partner? Do you have an LLC where both of you are listed as officers and a partnership agreement executed by an attorney? Yeah. Really? Well, no, not really. I said, okay, then you don't have a partner. You have a friend, you know? Well, yeah, he's sitting here right beside me. He's driving right now. I'm like, okay, stop. Who's going to buy the truck? Well, he's going to buy the truck. I said, you going to drive the truck? No, I'm not driving the truck. So he's going to drive the truck. No, he's not going to drive the truck. He said, you're going to put a driver in it. And I said, oh, let me stop it right there, Hoss. Negatory. That's not going to happen.
Good luck.
Now he's probably seen an old episode where years ago that we would do that, but that worked until it didn't, and we don't do that anymore.
Right.
And it comes down to, he says, well, I said, why don't you guys want to buy this truck? Why won't you drive it? Well, you know, we just want to get home, be with our families. And I said, then please, for the love of all that is good and kind, get out of the trucking industry. These two things do not go together. And I said, and please don't say the word passive income. And he's like, well, that's kind of what we were thinking. I said, here's what you do.
Passive income in trucking?
Yeah. I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go borrow $200,000 from the bank. Okay. And then go get 5 bottles of tequila, 2 for the each of you. And then you pour the 5th bottle on top of the $200,000 and light it on fire. And at least you can say you've had a good time. Because that's basically what's going to happen is you're going to be broke and bankrupt in a very short period of time.
Oh, I was trying to think, how long could that last? And it depends on the amount of cash they have to waste.
We ought to call it the trucking the NFL, not for me.
And I think that's a result of a lot of people on whatever platform giving really bad advice and trying to be like, like, hey, dump trucking, get into dump trucking and make 17 grand a week in a dump truck. And I started seeing all this stuff, get in a hot shot and make, I made 10 grand a week. Like, okay, cool. Like, let's, how many, what did you do? Like, just getting a one-off is great. Like, one-off load board off the load board. Sure. That's great. And everybody needs those. But like, really advice on how did you build your hotshot company? Like, what are you doing to find that niche that you can fit in where, because hotshot's like the way I look at hotshot, that's the oil field stuff, that is, we need this out to the rig now. And I don't even have time to talk price with you. Just put the damn thing on your truck and go, and then send me the bill. You know what I mean? And a lot of that stuff was actually hourly, 150 bucks an hour is the way that the hot shot industry has been. And it's been an oil field. Somebody needs a part. And I've been a little bit involved in that. And I've even heard stories where they needed a box of gloves. They needed a special kind of glove out on the rig and they were running out of it. And, the safety is paramount with everything. You got to have the right stuff. And they paid a guy from Houston to Midland, like, I don't know what it was, $1,500 or something, full load for something that was riding shotgun with him. And I do that stuff too with my agency. I just had a Sprinter van that picked up in LA, went up to Reno, and that was, 7 p.m. California time. And nobody cares what the rate is necessarily at that point, and gave it to a guy that I know and has done really good business with me in the past with that relationship.
I've gotten a text message.
I didn't do it.
I want to know more about who your guest is and what he does and what part of the market he plays in.
Okay. So right now, I'm an agent. That's how I make a living. I have 2 of my daughters that do it. I have dedicated customers. I'm not one of these guys who's out there driving the price down. The deal I have with most of my customers is I pay the truck what the truck needs to be paid, and I mark it up. And so, I don't really have any set rates with anybody. That's just the world. I've been able to do that because they know that I can service the account and trust them. And then also underneath my name there is Bestloads.AI, which is something that me and some other people that have worked at Convoy are building. And, it's a load finding, using AI to find loads on load boards. And I think how this ties back into what I'm saying is, like, you can spend a lot of time wasting, scrolling, and trying to find stuff. AI can do that for you. I do believe that this will always be a human to human relationship driven business. And the best amount of freight is going to be, so human, powered by AI. Oh, I got a little echo there. Powered by AI, but with human care. So essentially, we're going to enable you to save time so that you can build your business. And then also, one thing that we're doing that is pretty unique is, we realize a lot of guys need a third-party dispatcher, right? But you don't always need a third-party dispatcher. So everything that we do on this app is text-based. And you could say, hey, I'm empty in Salt Lake City. And it understands you already have a dry van and stuff like that. Searches, finds the best loads based on where you have told it you want it to go. And so let's say you find a load that you're interested in. You can say, hey, you can book that load yourself, right? It'll give you the information, and it essentially does the search. And the way I envision this is kind of like, if your wife's at home dispatching for you or whoever, and she's like, hey, I found a load, and texts it to you, right? It's kind of the same thing. And then you call and book it. And I think that's really great. Like, you should
Mhm.
call and talk to that broker, because I think that you're probably going to be able to get more money for that load, more than any dispatcher will. Um, and that's a generality, right? And then, let's say, and that's just a flat fee per month. It's like $99 a month for that. And, let's say that you are in whatever situation, you're in a traffic or something, tarping a load in the rain. And let's say a load comes up that you want to book and you just really can't do it. You text back and say, hey, book this load for me. And then a real US based human dispatcher will call that broker on your behalf and book and negotiate and book that load for you. And you can have that service is available anytime you want, and you never have to use it, or you can use it every single time.
Mhm.
And it's just a simple, it's just really a simple thing that we've built to help drivers with their day to day, and using some tech. And I know there's other AI dispatchers out there. And I don't see a world where a broker's going to give an AI bot a good paying load. I just don't think that
Right.
exists. So that's why we're
Well,
building it this way.
one thing that we've got to address is the AI boogeyman. Oh, AI is coming for your jobs, and AI is going to do this. Y'all, if they could have explained to us what these things were capable of in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
we would have said it was the end of civilization, right? Because
People thought the car was the end of civilization and it
right.
was going to ruin the horses.
I
So
would love to, if I had a time machine, everybody's like, oh, I'd go to the famous event. No, I'd go to some random place when the electricity lines were being run. Because I
yeah,
guarantee you that people were saying, oh, I'm not, well, they're not going to hook my house up to that, or they probably heard about somebody putting wood in their 100-year-old house and the house burning down. Oh, well, you're not going to put that electricity stuff in my house. I'm not going to have my house burned down by that
they used
devil.
to say that the electricity was demons coming into your house.
I could
That's
feel
a
it.
true story. And you would be possessed if you let the demon electricity come into your house. And hey, maybe we all are. I don't know. We got all this electric light shining in our face, this demon light. So
I love to quote the great inventor of the internet, Al Gore. There was a time, let's see, it would have been while Clinton was president. So that was what, 92 to 2000. Somewhere in there was a big kerfuffle about, I want to say it was professional wrestling.
mm-hmm.
And that violence, we got to get that violence away from our children. And Al Gore, of all people, goes, that television's got an off switch, right? I mean, you could just
Dude,
turn it off, right?
I
The irony of that coming out of Al Gore. But I can literally run this entire fleet on an iPhone. I'd rather do it with my Mac, but I could do it. I have every capability in this phone to do every sort of bookkeeping and dispatching and everything that I need to do with that phone. It's incredible. And I
Very
knew a
cool.
guy that bought the very first one, like the very first one. And it was like $650 and you didn't get a subsidy and it was only available at AT&T. And I looked at that and I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Nobody needs a phone that will do all that. I got a Motorola Razr and it's awesome. I don't need some stupid iPhone. Well, as
I
my
remember
desk
the
is covered
BlackBerry,
with
right? That was cutting edge back in the day.
$4,000 in, Apple material. But we have got to get away from AI is bad. AI is going to do this. AI is going to do that. Is it disruptive? Yeah.
Yeah.
All new technology is disruptive.
I
And
think
that's a good thing because there are things, ladies and gentlemen, that need to be disrupted. And if we look back over the last 100 years of human civilization, there's been lots of unnecessary stuff that's been disrupted. And we don't have that anymore. Now there's a handful of things I can't wait for them to be disrupted. But it's coming. And if we'll turn off the television, we could also understand that there's not a single example, not one, in all of recorded and available human history where the bad guys ever won. Not once.
Well, history's written by the people who won the war, right? So
Right. Right. But it's to say that the market has always moved faster than the sources of evil. The market has always moved ahead. Human civilization has always evolved beyond whatever the current threat was. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Well, let me say this, because the word dispatcher has become a hot button, and I completely understand why. Because there's a lot of people, and I saw Cisco saying here on TikTok, where did it go? Oh, I lost it. But basically, people are struggling with the basics, basic economics, basic business structure, like the very, very fundamentals of business.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be manipulated by people that don't have their best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And so, like, I have a friend on TikTok. Gosh, and I feel so stupid for not instantly not remembering his page, but he trains dispatchers.
Yeah, there's a couple of there's really
And
good
he
dispatchers.
does a fantastic job, because what he's doing is helping service providers connect with customers. That's what he's doing.
I think I talked to that guy the other day.
BE Logistics.
What is it?
BE.logistics.
Okay, no, it's somebody else that I talked to. I don't remember his name right off the top of my head.
I have two dispatchers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have Phil and Farb, as we affectionately refer to them. And I promise you that Phil and Barb will make you much more money than they cost you. Okay.
Yeah.
When I was a single truck BCO and did all of my own dispatching, it was tough, because there were situations where I missed a load. I missed an opportunity because I was also having to drive the truck.
Yeah.
So if you can clearly vet a person who has the skill and knowledge to be able to put, because it's not, oh, there's a load, book it. No, it's, what is it? Where's it going? What's the commodity? Like, all of these factors. And a really good dispatcher, and Barb's probably one of the best I've ever seen, is able to take all of those factors and decide whether or not, well, you know what, that load's not really an opportunity at all, after all. When we look at where's it going, is there freight available on the other side?
Yes.
Do you have the hours to get there and still be able to do something? Are you going to Florida and have to deadhead 600 miles out? And a lot of those decisions literally have to be made in an instant, because if it is $4 or $5 a mile going to Florida and it pops up on a load board, well, you got about 3 seconds, or it's gone. Somebody else is going to get to it. So there's no inherent evil in a dispatcher.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not paying attention, and if you haven't studied the market, and if you don't know how to discern whether or not a person with the hat that says dispatcher actually is capable of increasing your value and connecting you to better customers and better brokers, and because they've got to be salespeople, they've got to be able to convince that broker that, number one, they're not a scammer. They actually do have a truck, right? So they've got to be very, very talented. And so Steve Vest of Nationwide Equipment Logistics.
Yeah, I've watched that guy. He's good.
He and also Anik has really opened my eyes to a failure on the part of the shippers when it comes to double brokering, when it comes to fraud. If y'all would get up out your chair and walk outside and make sure that the guy that was supposed to be there is actually there. I don't know what the percentage of double brokering and fraud would be cut down, but I bet it'd be a pretty significant chunk if y'all would just make sure that the person that's supposed to show up is actually showing up, you know. But they're not doing that. And so they're just, oh, well, there's a truck. And they look at the inside of the trailer, if that, and they throw it on there and they're like, oh, well, it's the broker's responsibility. It's the carrier's responsibility. Well, no, it's your responsibility. And then you combine that with a truck driver's absolute refusal to read a bill of lading and actually make sure it's right. You know, brother, I had a guy one time and he got so lucky, that he gets to a receiver, and thank God it was a preloaded trailer. He actually took the right trailer, but had the wrong paperwork. And he gets there and he's like, well, this load's not supposed to be here. This load was supposed to go to Iowa. Well, I dig into it and thank God, but he never once literally said these words to me. When I asked, did you read the bill of lading? Never crossed my mind. Didn't occur to me. Didn't occur to you to read the bill of lading? What? You did what? But we all have to take responsibility. The broker, the carrier, the driver, the unloader, the loader, the shipper. If we all don't, if one person in here doesn't take a little bit of responsibility to go, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this really where this load's supposed to go?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that's one thing that people will say that, oh, social media is the downfall. Social media is a microscope.
Mm-hmm.
Because before the microscope was invented, human beings couldn't see bacteria because it was too small.
Right.
Social media is a giant microscope that showed us some nastiness that was already there. All it has done is taken an unfortunate percentage of the population and went, oh, wow, man, they're really dumb.
Yeah.
And now you're just able to see it because they're in your comment section. So.
Yeah, those are good points.
And AI, I've used it a little bit, and I've played around with ChatGPT. What I think it's going to be exceptionally good at, like you said, what am I trying to filtering? I think it's gonna be great for filtering. Like
So
tell it what I want, and if it can filter out a bunch of stuff that's not necessary to me. I remember Blake one time told me that he walked into a guy's office and dude's got like some crazy number, like 2,000 emails. Okay.
And it can summarize.
He's only looking for one specific thing.
Right.
And so he goes into Gmail and he puts in a filter. And the 2,000 went to like 50.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, now AI can read all of those emails, summarize it for you
instantly.
So, yeah. You make a really good point. And I think that's one thing that AI is like really good at, that, you know, it's not going to replace the human relationship, but you talked about markets, right? So AI can look at an infinite amount of data all at the same time. So let's say we're looking at 5 load boards for you all at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's say there's 1,000 results. A human, I mean, just pound for pound, a human can't compete in this area. There's just, I don't see how there's a logical argument that it can't. So that it would be able to. So let's say there's 1,000 results, and then it'll take, based on the driver's preferences, it'll score everything, all 1,000 of them, and then surface the top 5 that are going to be the best load, right? So now let's go take that a step further. And you talked about markets. So let's say, it's finding you a load that pays $3 a mile, but it goes to Denver, Colorado, right? Mm-hmm. The AI can simultaneously look at Denver, Colorado and see what's coming out of there, all at the same time. And it could do this 10 different loads all at the same time. See the destination market and what that market looks like. And that $3 a mile might be not as good as a $2.50 a mile load going to Chicago, right? And we know that because we just know that. But there's a lot of people who don't understand those markets, and markets change. And granted, the market might not be the same, 2 days later, but it's going to be able to look at those things and say like, hey, there's not a lot of loads coming out of Denver, that are going to hit your
Give it a score.
preferences. Yeah, it's like $1.80 a mile.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing that the AI can do, and look at those things and, do that on a massive scale where it would probably take if you had 10, say you had 10 dispatchers, 10 really good dispatchers searching the load board for you all at the same time. The AI is still going to be able to do things a little faster. But, and then surface those loads. And then, and then at the end of the day, it's not replacing anybody. If anything, I think it's enabling the truck driver to take a little bit more control of his business himself and seeing those loads himself and really doing that last vetting. And then if he needs help, there's always a human there. And then you talked about some of the wasted time. There's a ton of wasted time in this industry.
Oh,
and everybody's already heard call into a broker on a load, and it's an AI agent on the phone with you. And you're just trying to get hey, what the heck is the flipping commodity? Because nobody posted it, right? Or is this an appointment, or is it first come, first serve, right? So you're wasting your time talking to that broker's AI. Your AI can talk to their AI and, and do. So one thing that the AI can do is if it sees a posting and it says, hey, this might be a good load, but we're not sure what the commodity is. And we know that this driver only likes certain commodities. So we need to know what the commodity is. So it can reach out to that broker and get that commodity and then take that information back in and, it continue to use that to preference it. So, just think of the amount of wasted time that human dispatchers and truck drivers have wasted calling brokers to find out what the damn commodity is.
An AI would also be incredibly handy. We've heard about the scams where people will spoof email addresses and spoof phone numbers, or they'll hide one letter in the email address, right? And it's really hard for the human eye.
It's tricky.
It's really difficult for the human eye to pick up on that, but a program could instantly.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm on a sidebar for a little bit, but for just a second, because there's an interesting back and forth going in my comment section.
I want to see it. I can't see it.
And well, you can actually, there's a chat button over on the left there, and you can see all the Facebook and the YouTube, but you can't see the TikTok. And the point of contention is that Landstar requires the trucks and trailers to have their federal annual inspection done every 120 days. Okay. And there's no way around that. If you don't get your truck inspected in that 120 days, they put your truck on hold and you can't haul freight again until you've had your inspection. Now, I can tell you, if I was in charge of Landstar, I would probably drop it from 120 to 30. I would make them get an inspection every 30 days. Because if Landstar did not require the federal annual inspection to be done every 120 days, given the general knowledge of truck drivers and how suspensions and tires and brakes and all the things they're supposed to catch on a pre-trip, if Landstar didn't have 120-day inspections, our CSA score would be 9 million. Because truck drivers, unfortunately, and I'm going to generalize, y'all, okay, because I'm going to go off of what I've seen. They don't know a hubcap from a radiator cap, okay? They don't know, a brake drum from a brake pedal. They're just going to drive the truck until the wheels fly off. And man, where did that wheel go? I don't know. I'm upside down and on fire. I have no idea. Oh, 4 of my tires are missing. Wonder why. Yeah, I mean, I have seen how someone can destroy a truck in 120 days.
I've seen it too. Yeah.
Because I've seen
lost
them come in
engines
and I'm
because of
going,
drivers that didn't,
yeah.
pay attention.
Now, if you build a relation, well, number one, let's start commodity versus service provider. Especially as an operator of trucks that have drivers in them, I like the 120 because at least I know every 120 days, allegedly, a qualified inspector who's hopefully not deaf, dumb, and blind.
Mhm.
So let me give more context. Okay, when I was a BCO, I was terrified of 120s. Okay, because what if they catch something? What if it's going to cost me money? Because I was broke, desperate, and stupid like everybody else, right? And here locally, there's a TA close to my house, and there was a guy in there named Carl. God bless him. Carl Bonecutter was his name. Okay, we eventually became great friends, and he was the greatest mechanic I've ever met. But I ran from Carl because Carl could hear an air leak at 100 yards, right? And if Carl was so immensely had such immense integrity, he would not pass a truck if there was something wrong with it.
Mhm.
So fast forward, I go to work for Larry, and it was time for my 120, and he had a shop that he had a relationship with over in Kentucky, and I said, well, the TA here close to the house does 120s, but boy, this guy Carl, man, I mean, if there's something wrong, he'll fail it. And Larry goes, good, that's what we want. And I went, huh? He goes, that's what we want. We want somebody that's going to find what's wrong with the truck and fix it before it's a problem.
Mhm.
And I went, wow, that's a wild ass idea. You mean we should get somebody qualified under the truck and have them figure out what's wrong with it before it costs us $5,000? And it got to the point where Larry even made Carl a T-shirt, and it said, "Hey, what you gonna do about this?" Because every time he come out from under that truck, "Hey, what you gonna do about this? Hey, what you gonna do about that?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess you're gonna fix it, aren't you?" And when he got sick, unfortunately, he passed away this year. When he got sick and couldn't work anymore, the quality of my trucks went down so fast.
Yeah.
To the point that I literally had to go buy tools and start wrenching on the trucks myself, because if somebody else inspected it, deaf, dumb, and blind, just roll it through, just roll it through, just roll it through. And I'm like, guys, I want you to find this stuff. I would rather you find it here where I have control of the price than have it be found in a DOT inspection, right? But that was such a wild experience for me coming to Larry going, no, I want the Carls to find this stuff. I want someone to figure that out stuff before it becomes a massive problem. So yeah, I love the 120s, and there's a bunch of them that ought to be done every 30 days, but
Daily.
that's true. Okay. Now we get back off of my tangent.
No, it's a good tangent. When I was running trucks, we were a regional company, and we had a 2-bay shop and a couple mechanics. We did all our own tires and all that stuff. And there's definite value in letting a mechanic put their hands on that thing. And it's a mechanic that knows the history of that truck. So yeah, it's definitely a ton of value in that. And, yeah, I was just reading some of the comments here, all good comments. And yeah, I think, to me, like, the ideal situation is, use the AI as least as possible,
Mhm.
and go build those relationships. I really, just being born and raised in the trucking industry, and seeing, at least how my family built a successful company based on relationships. There's just a lot of bull crap. Like, the industry has
Mhm.
changed a lot, and it's full of a lot of bull crap, and there's a lot of crappy loads and a lot of crappy brokers. And, somebody said
There's a
those.
question here from the outlaw Evan
Yeah, I don't
Eisenman.
know if I understood. I don't know if I understand this question. I saw that. Has there been a situation where you're past in being? Can you help me
Your
out? What is?
past in being in the truck, so being a driver, has helped you out finding and booking freight.
For me personally?
Yeah.
So I quit. I shut down my authority at the end of 2023, November 2023, and AI wasn't good enough then. Like,
Mhm.
AI is changing so damn fast. It's incredible. And the amount of software that's going to be coming out is going to be the way we interact with our phones is going to totally change. And my prediction, if I have a prediction that anybody cares about, I think phone apps are going to be a thing of the past pretty soon. And that's why we're not building this on an app.
Mhm.
And there's no username, password. You talk to this just like you do a human. So when I was in a truck, no, because the tech wasn't good enough yet. Um, and it like really just getting all the integrations with the load boards takes a lot of time. So we're not scraping load boards. We have a direct API, which means that our database is talking to their database, and it does not go through the front end at all. So, and also somebody said, that's what filters are for. And I do agree. Like, you can set your DAT or truck stop filters pretty well, have it notify you. But do that when you're got a refrigerated truck in Southern California in June, and you're not going to be able to sort through it, for the most
Yeah.
part. Right.
Well,
So,
I using the Landstar board,
yeah.
I have a basic setup, I have a basic deadhead radius, minimum rate per mile, states that I want to go to, states that I don't want to go to. That's my basic filter. And
Mhm.
then I can close it in or expand it however I want. But it takes time,
You got to
and there have
redo
been
it.
times that I've had 2 or 3 different load alerts saved for one truck. Okay. Well, here's looking out 300 miles for a big fish, and here's looking local for something small, and then here's another one looking to go out further days, and then I've got another one saved for just all the direct shippers because I want to try to be notified. But it's like, I'm picturing like someone that's got like 6 or 7 fish nets, hanging off
Yeah.
of them, and there's hoping that they can juggle around and find the one that lands.
Yeah.
AI, and just call it computer processing ability. That's what it is,
Yeah,
right?
there's like AI where it tries to replace a human. It's going to be your girlfriend or something. Like, that's not what we're building. Like, it's processing a ton of data, sorting it, getting you the best data.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's the Landstar's got a new, they call it a capacity portal. So they're gonna
Mm.
change the
Mhm.
load board. Last time they changed it was in 2016,
Mm.
and the meltdown was epic. Epic.
I can imagine.
And all they did was change a couple little parameters. They're changing the whole look of it, but it gives you markets, hot markets, cold markets. It, shows you the top agencies that you've worked with. It's got a lot of really amazing stuff built into it. And they're all going to completely freak out when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when DAT goes down for a minute, everybody kind of loses it. But and then also, like, we're integrating directly with about 60 different direct load boards. There's an aggregator that we're going through to do that. But so there, a fair amount of this stuff, like, you just wouldn't be able to have enough load boards open to check on all of these. So, and these are direct, like brokers load boards,
Mhm.
um, so this, and a lot of times that posts, so you're thinking it might be kind of like, no, we are not trying to build a load board. Like, I've been in the tech world enough in trucking, and everybody tries to build a load board, and we're not going to try that. We want to partner with the load boards, and we want to be that, um, you know, take all that information on all those load boards and put it into a digestible format for the driver. And, I've seen other things where a load preference pops up on an app and you swipe left. It's like Tinder for loads or
Yeah.
something, right? And it's like, I don't see that. You know what I mean? Like, um, we're trying to, as we're is just being in a truck, like, how do you communicate with people? For the most part, you got your cell phone there. Somebody sends you a text, your dispatcher does, or your
Got
wife's
seven
girlfriend, whatever,
GPSs on the
and
windshield.
you just push the button and then, talk to it. It screws up the text message, right? Something else. But
Yeah.
you get what I mean? Like we want to make it a way that we're not trying to change how drivers do things already.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I think there's a ton of really good dispatchers out there. And maybe we'll make something someday where you can bring your own dispatcher, and they can use our tools. But right now, at the end of the day, there is a real human there, and US based. And we're also getting integrated with highway as well.
Mhm.
So we're going to be, and that's a direct integration with them. So where this is where a lot of human dispatchers can kind of get fumbled up is you get a system like a highway, and it just adds a level of complexity with, the driver's got to do the multi-factor authentication. So we're building something to solve for that problem, to get you set up a lot quicker with brokers, and to do that. And there's like been a lot of it's really hard to put a lot of trust in dispatching. You know what I mean? Like there's just, this is how so much fraud came into this industry. It was just tons of fraud, right?
Mhm.
And it's the main source. And so we're trying to build a really good, solid, reliable, something people can trust, that's actually partnering with the load boards and the highways of the world, and bring some legitimacy back to the dispatching industry. And don't get me wrong, I've talked to dispatchers, and there's a ton of dispatchers, and we're not trying to take away their job. But I think hopefully we'll be able to bring dispatching back to trucking in a legitimate way.
Yeah.
So
I have kind of a Big Bang Theory analogy, right? Just for the market in general. From if you go from, say, the Industrial Revolution, and you have this, compared to the rest of human history, you have this explosion of market activity, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And in the Big Bang Theory, there is a point where it goes out so wide and it starts coming back, right?
Okay.
So I think we went out about as far as we can, and now we're kind of coming back the other way. And I think we're going to start decentralizing a lot. I think blockchain technology is going to be very pivotal, because we desperately need digital ID. We just don't need it handled by states. But we do need immutable. There are things that in life need to be immutable. Well, identification is one of those, right? Because that's our handshake. That's our ability to really know that when we're talking to that dispatcher, they're an actual person. When we're talking to that carrier, it's who they say they are. So if we could get blockchain identification going from the market side, not from the state, then we will begin, I think, to kind of pull back some of that explosion of Wild West chicanery that is able to happen. But guys, there's so much of it that can be stopped by you just paying attention. You could just, the Nigerian letter, okay, that's not real. It looks real.
Nigerian prince needs to give you $5,000.
The
I know somebody
Nigerian
fell for that one time. I was like, man, I'm embarrassed to know you.
Well, Dave Ramsey, years and years and years ago, took a call from someone, and their grandmother had gotten scammed by a guy, and da 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 da. And Dave said something heartless, but so true. He said, "You want to know why my mom got scammed? My mom got scammed because she was greedy. My mom thought she was going to get something for nothing."
That's rough to say about your mom.
I went, damn, Dave just punched him right in the mouth, But there's a lot of truth in that. You know, you're
Fair.
not the Nigerian letter's not going to the Nigerian prince is not going to send you $1 million if you send him
Not
20,000.
really trying to do it.
You
It's
know,
flat.
if we'll just stop, my daughter's 19 and just started working, and she got the was it the US Postal Service scam text message? It was going, oh no, it was the DMV. It was the DMV scam that was going crazy.
Mm.
And so she screenshots it. She's like, "This real?" And I went, "Nope." You know, but the fact that she was able to stop and go, "Is this real?" And I went, "No, darling, that's not real."
Yeah.
The DMV is not going to send you a text message. The Postal Service is not going to send you a text message. We had one. We've got a local sheriff here in our county that's hilarious, and he's taken over the county sheriff's Facebook page. And some guy in a county over or 2 counties over was calling people and telling them that he was a deputy sheriff and they were going to have to pay him with gift cards, or not. He was going to come and arrest them. And that's unfortunately, there's people that be like, "I need to go to Target." No, you don't. Okay, that's not how that works. This is basic civics. The cops are not going to send you a text message or call you and ask you to go to Target to get $400 in gift cards to keep him from arresting you. But there's a lot of that, and to your point, you're driving a truck. You're a single truck owner operator. You've got a 40-ton vehicle to deal with.
Yeah.
In one of the most litigious industries in human history, if you do something dumb, if you sneeze and cross the line and run over somebody, they're going to sue you for $11 million.
I've been sued for hitting. I had a driver hit somebody that was didn't even hit them. It was somebody on the sidewalk, homeless person, and the truck jumped up on the sidewalk. The trailers did, or the trailer tires did, and anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was a long time ago. And the insurance company actually hunted down this homeless person and gave him a check for like $12,000. I'm like, you didn't even have to go look for him, for crying out loud. But that was a long time ago. It was probably 20 years ago, but still,
there's so much. This is one of the riskiest industries that you can get involved in. It really is. But we play that off, that, it's just trucking, it's just delivering loads, but it's very, 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 very risky. And there's a lot of things that you open yourself up to when you're trying to run a business with your 7 GPSs on the windshield and your iPad and your phone, none of which you're supposed to be touching, by the way, in like every state. And you're trying to run a business.
Button, you can do one finger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's all people doing that while they're watching. I had a guy show up one time. I was meeting him at the truck stop for something, and he backs in, and I walk up to him, and he opens the door, and he's literally with clear packing tape. He's got a tablet, clear packing taped to the steering wheel.
Oh gosh.
Watching the football game. And I said, "Okay, well, you're excused." What do you mean? Gone. Adios. You're out. There's no way I'm going to be at risk of you running over somebody because you've got, you can't even use Velcro. What kind of savage that you couldn't even use Velcro? I've had everything Velcroed to my dash. Tape? No, gone.
I do the same thing.
Oh, Velcro is my best friend. Well, we've been going an hour and 18 minutes. That's long enough. We'll certainly, I think, have more conversations in the future because you have a wealth of knowledge, and what I want to do with the platform is be able to connect to the good people, right? I don't want to talk to
being a good person.
Yeah. I don't want to talk to sleazy carriers that are going to the government trying to get, people's livelihood taken away. I want to talk to good carriers and good brokers and good business people so that hopefully we can teach the rest of the industry how to interact respectfully and profitably with one another to meet the needs of the customer. Because in what I see in all y'all's fight and struggle back and forth and the brokers and the carriers, the one person ain't none of y'all ever talk about is the customer. Now they're guilty of some stuff. Yeah, that y'all get.
There's terrible shippers. There are terrible customers.
Oh yeah,
Don't get me started. I can do an hour on this.
I told
I think
one of my
brokers
broker
are
friends the
bad.
other
Wait till you
day.
get some shippers.
I said y'all should go on strike for 2 weeks, okay, and just find a carrier and hand them a list of 100 phone numbers and wish them the best of luck. Okay,
Yeah.
y'all want direct freight, brother? Y'all go have at it. We're gonna go to the beach for a couple of weeks, and we're just gonna hang out, and y'all go deal with the customers. If you think you hate the brokers for undercutting you, wait till you meet the customers because they're really gonna piss you off.
Yeah.
We
There are
need
good
good
customers. There's a
salespeople.
lot of good. There's just bad actors in every single aspect. There's bad mechanics. There's bad tire shops. There's bad drivers. There's bad company owners, right? There's bad brokers. There's bad
Mhm.
dispatchers. But there's a hell of a lot of really good, hardworking people in this industry as well, too. So
Steve had a video a couple days ago where he talked about he had an agent working under him, and he gave the guy a lead in
I
April,
think I saw that one.
and the guy finally closed the deal in November. So
Yeah.
that's 7 months later. And I commented and I said, there it is. You're watching my own personal hell played out in front of you, because I would rather take a whipping than to make a sales call. I'm not a salesman. I'm not make 100 calls and you'll get one yes. No. I'm really good at operating trucks. I'm good at working on trucks. I'm good at handling all that stuff. I'm not going to step outside of what I'm good at and then devalue the person that is good at it just because I can't do it. I'm gonna commend the good salespeople. I'm gonna commend the good brokers and the good agents, because they sure as hell do something that I can't do and won't do. I mean, I guess if my kids were starving, but they'd probably be skinny and hungry, if it was up to me, so.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I've done for a lot of my life. But making 100 phone calls a day is not the way to do it, man. It's just building simple, just getting an opportunity, doing a super good job, and building a relationship. But you are right. I do a lot of I've mentored a lot of people on like direct shipper stuff, brokers and truckers, and you have to think in terms of months and years when landing an account. You can't think I'm going to go land an account in a day. Like, you get an opportunity, and that opportunity is probably going to suck, and it's not going to want to load you on, but if you know that there's a good opportunity there, you do that load and you just show up and you get it done. You do a damn good job. And, and then over months, you get the more opportunities and you just provide really good service. And then I think that really the trick, I know you didn't ask for my advice on this, but I'll give it anyways. I think for anybody looking out there to enhance an account, the trick to becoming, getting really good accounts is to become like a trusted advisor, almost like you're a consultant to that
Oh,
shipper,
that's good.
or even that broker too. Maybe not so much a broker, but a shipper for sure. Because you'd be
Yeah.
surprised at how many shippers don't really have a really good or thought out process for their shipping, and they really do need someone to help them that
Yeah.
knows what they're doing. So
Yeah. I mean, we get emails all the time asking for quotes. Hey, what do you quote this for me? And they're one, and maybe that goes to Evan's question: did your experience behind the wheel help you in finding and booking loads?
okay.
Well, I think that's
Yes,
where
100%.
I've been behind the wheel. I know what it costs to run a truck. I know what, but I can also look at the market and go, okay, well, this is not a $3 a mile lane. This is a $2 a mile lane, and that's all you're going to get. Um, it's so much relationship. I mean, we just wear that out and we make it
100%.
so cliche. But my favorite sentence in the English language is, "Hey, I wanted to call you before I posted this."
Or
And I
text somebody,
earned
you
that.
gotta text.
There's this one lady, this Jamaican lady, and like in the height of the crazy market, like 21 sometime, she called me and she goes, "Hey, do you have a truck near such and such?" And I went, "Now my closest guy's 300 miles away." And she's like, "I've got a
How much
customer
do
and
you get up there?
they're screaming." And at that time, there wasn't anything about that load, the rate per mile, the revenue per day, nothing about that load met my basic criteria. She's like, but I'm desperate. I got to find somebody to cover it. And I said, I'll send a guy. I deadheaded him 300 miles to get a shitty load that nobody wanted. But from that experience, I don't know how many times I've gotten, hey, I wanted to call you before I posted this. Do you have somebody close by? And it was the good stuff. You know,
That's
it was the $4.50 a mile dropping hook on both ends, you know.
Well, one way to look at that is when you're working with direct shippers, and this is the way I always think about this, is that person wants to look good to their boss. How can you help them look good to their boss? And that's exactly what you just did.
Yeah.
She was probably going to get in a lot of trouble for this load, right? And she was probably stressed out about it, right? And, you know, you don't know what else, the salesperson screaming at the CEO that we're going to lose our biggest account if we don't get this delivered. You just, you know, all that stuff happens, and you just saved her butt, and she's going to remember that for the rest, you know, for years. And then also when that person quits and goes and works for another shipper, because that happens all the time.
Oh yeah.
She calls you up, and now you have 2 customers.
Yep. Yeah. And it comes from a place of selflessness, right? There's so many people. If you watch the news cycle, billionaires, because billionaires are the root of all evil. You want to believe you see somebody in a nice house or a nice car, or if you generate some wealth, you want to believe that they got that from being dirty and greedy and doing people. No. The truth is, go read Millionaire Next Door. What was the other one? Millionaire Mind.
Yeah. I've read Millionaire Next Door. It's a good one.
Your neighbor driving the 10-year-old F-150 could be a millionaire, and you won't know it because he's not driving a brand new Raptor, right? That's how he got to be. Yeah, that's how he got to be a millionaire. Okay, I understand how Cletus McFarland got to be a millionaire. Okay, that's fine. God bless him and all the other YouTube billionaires. You know, Mr. Beast and whoever. I'm glad for him. Happy for him. Their success has nothing to do with my success or failure. My success or failure is 100% on me. So I'll close with this. Brokers, carriers, dispatchers, company drivers, whoever you are at the sound of my voice. If you're having problems, go find the closest mirror and have a conversation with the guy or girl that is the root of your problems, and y'all work together how to figure it out. That's it, right? So we'll be back with y'all next Friday night at 8:00. For what? Who knows? Yeah, we'll come up with something. Well, I'll find some random person on the internet and drag them on this podcast in a minute. So we'll just make new friends and have podcasts with them.
I appreciate
it. So be back with you. BlueRibbonLogistics.com. We have a couple of spots open in the masterclass. 18 months, W-2 employee. We'll teach you everything that we know, and we'll probably learn a couple of things from you. But we want you to learn risk management and customer service, because that's what it's going to take to be successful in business. And we'll teach you that every day through immersion, and a couple of slaps up against the head, you know, will probably happen too. Random floggings, as Phil calls them. And then the BCO mentoring program that we announced last week. If you're a BCO and you're struggling, go to the website, BlueRibbonLogistics.com, click on BCO mentoring. And we'll help you turn it around. You know, we'll give you everything that we've come up with and all of our best practices, and try to get you turned around and headed the right direction.